The first question I ask golfers is, what makes your golf ball go? And they're like, never thought about that. Well, I hit it, and my mind, and the swing momentum, and my club head speed, and they say all these things. It's like, yeah, but the real thing that makes your golf ball go is you, which is the good news and the bad news. And then the next question is, who are you? But my answer on a very practical level is that who I am, who you are, is life energy in a body. Life energy, ki, chi, kundalini, prana. We don't have words in English, but they do in the East. This life energy, it comes into your body when you get born. When you die, it goes out of your body. And the last breath, that's where the breath comes in. Our breath kind of carries this animating life force. And it has 4 faculties. They're called your mind, your body, your emotions, and your spirit.
Hi, this is Randy Erickson from Moraga, California, and I play at Moraga Country Club. This is Golf Smarter number 914.
Most golfers make centered contact on a random basis with our golf sensei, Jamie Zimron.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome back to the Golf Smarter podcast, Jamie.
Thank you, Fred. I'm always so happy to be here. Appreciate it. Love talking with you.
Great. It's great having you back on. This is your 15th appearance on Golf Smarter. Ever since 2008, you've been coming on, but it's been a couple of years since you've been on, so I'm really glad to get you back. You've been traveling a lot. We had COVID, so it's been tough for us to get together again. But I'm really excited to get you on now because I'm so proud of you. You are receiving an Excellence in Golf Award this coming week from the San Francisco Pride Golf Tournament.
PGA Pride.
The PGA Pride. Please explain more to me. I was reading the press release, but this is really a prestigious award, and you should be so honored to be getting it. What's going on with this?
Well, thank you. I really am honored. And more than that, I'm excited about the tournament, the event. It's the 5th annual PGA partnering with San Francisco Pride Committee, which is huge. You know how big that event is every year, 250,000 people at least. And the San Francisco Pride, the San Francisco Pride Committee does a lot of community organization support. So it's a fundraiser event.
Great.
But the PGA has been partnering now for 5 years with San Francisco Pride as part of their diversity and inclusion initiative, which I want to thank Greg Fitzgerald. He's a PGA pro in the South Bay, and it was his brainchild, and he's the, for the PGA, Northern California PGA, he's the director, I believe, of the Committee on Diversity and Inclusion. So it's a big event. It raises money. Everybody's on board. The event the night before is hosted at the Fairmont Hotel, and we play at Harding Park, which of course is a U.S. Open major venue. So there's a lot of support behind the LGBT community and diversity in general, and particularly for the LGBTQ golfers and athletes. So people playing are from a wide swath of the community. You could say allies, whatever. But it's not like it's just gay people playing golf. But it's really something to be at the tournament, to be at Harding Park, and to see rainbow balloons. And rainbows. It's a very colorful event, and at this U.S. Open venue. So it's really big steps forward, and it's the 5th annual. And again, I'm very honored to be the honoree this year.
That's awesome. So why you? Why did you get selected for this honor? Do you know?
Why
Come
me?
on, brag.
Well,
or do I have to get your brother on to have you brag about you?
Oh, thank you. So I've been playing golf since I was 7, and I won my first tournament I ever played, which happened to be the Wisconsin State Junior Championship. I grew up in Milwaukee. I was barely 13 years old, and today that sounds kind of funny because we've got kids playing golf at unbelievable levels, right, at 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. But back then, it wasn't like that. We hardly had any junior programs. I think there was one other girl who played golf, and where I came from. But we did have a robust tournament, and I beat the 17-year-olds, and then I won the junior title I think 3 out of my 4 times I tried, and I was ranked in the top 10 nationally as a junior player. I lost on the 19th hole in sudden death, right, of the semifinals of the U.S. Girls Nationals at Pinehurst #2 to Laura Baugh, who, of course, went on to play the LPGA Tour. Amy Alcott and I became friends at that tournament. We both qualified shooting 76, and that's how we met. So, that was kind of my cohort. And then I actually went to Stanford, but I got there a couple of years before Title IX. I was probably your scholar athlete, classic one who would have been recruited, except that there was nothing to recruit for because it didn't quite exist. But I have gone on to join the LPGA a little bit later in my career. And so I've been Class A pro, teaching pro for, 20, 25 years. But in the interim, I started practicing Aikido, which is a Japanese martial art of peace. And I actually opened my own dojo when I was 25. It was called the Women's Aikido School of San Francisco. And I ran it for many, many years. And I'm now a 6th-degree black belt in Aikido and done a lot of things in Aikido. So that's been another part of my, I would say, my athletic career. I helped introduce Aikido to the Soviet Union in the Gorbachev years. I've co-founded the Middle East Aikido Peace Project, helped start Aikido in Palestine and Ethiopia. I was just in Western Ukraine and Slovakia a few months ago. I went to Poland. Since the war started, I've been doing Aikido-based and Aikido teaching and trauma, stress relief work. So, I do a lot with that. But it's been over 20 years that I blend. I'm also a psychologist. I get to brag. So I'm a family therapist.
That's why you're here.
Yeah.
I want you to.
So I have a master's degree in clinical psychology and have worked, for many years doing therapy. And I also have been doing a lot of corporate and leadership consulting for the last 15 years or so. So I've blended the principles of Aikido, which are universal principles for excellence. I call them the mechanics for the magic, with golf, and created Ki Golf, centered golfing. And so everything that I've been doing in my teaching and bringing these principles to golf in particular, and then also to peacemaking and leadership and excellence, I would say, is why I got chosen.
Wow. That's so awesome. That's so great. Congratulations. That's wonderful. And what is, where are we going to go with this? The LPGA or the PGA itself seems to be a bit more inclusive to the LGBTQ plus community than other pro sports. Is that a facade, or from your perspective, is it real?
I think it's a facade, I hate to say. I mean, this is why the PGA's initiative is so important. The LPGA actually is doing a lot of work around empowering young girls in golf. We think we've hit our millionth girl through our LPGA, USGA girls golf sites, which is fantastic. And the LPGA is also doing a lot, particularly around racism and more inclusivity, so that it's not just sort of white men playing golf. The PGA is the first that I know of to actually have a major LGBTQ initiative. And so, honestly, I think in sport is probably the hardest place to come out. And if you really think about it, very, 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 very few pro athletes, whether it's the PGA, the LPGA, the Major League Baseball, can you name out players, the NFL, the NHL, the NBA? Very, very few. It's difficult, and we can talk about why it's so difficult in sport in particular to come out.
But is it easier to come out in sport that is not team sport, like tennis or golf, versus a team sport like the Major League Baseball or the NBA? Which, there have been players in the NBA that have come out, but then they kind of got not blackballed, but isolated, perhaps, is the better way to put it.
Yeah, well, the teams, I'm not sure if that's the differentiating thing. It might be part of it. But I think some of these sports that are like so manly, right? It's the manly thing. And I have written some articles about this I can share with you and with the audience here.
Oh, well,
But we
please
mix up.
make sure I get the links and we'll put them on our show notes for the
Will
articles.
do. Okay.
Thank you.
So one of them is called Mixing Up Manly with Athletic. And what I mean about with that, and if you think about the NFL, which is or the NBA, it's kind of like hyper masculinity, right? And plus the team sport thing and the locker room and all this homophobia and makes it really hard. It's like as if we can't put our minds around the fact that you could be a gay man and be such a man, I mean, a football player, right? We just kind of don't equate those two things. It's like you're either not really a man if you're gay, or if you're gay, you're not athletic, or you're a designer, right? All the stuff that people have. It's these gender stereotypes that we're really dealing with, okay? And in tennis, we've, of course, had Billie Jean King and Martina Navratilova, who were huge in the game and have made a big difference. But you can't think of a lot more sort of out lesbians, much less gay men in tennis. So think about that. And in golf, quite honestly, there's only one pro. His name's Tad Fujikawa, and he played on tour. I don't know if he still has his card. He was our honoree a couple of years ago at this event. So, and he came out, but I don't know if you can challenge you to think of PGA Tour players who who are saying, hey, I'm gay. And on the LPGA Tour, we had Muffin Spencer Devlin came out in the 90s. She was kind of in my cohort, and she was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and you think that would have opened the door, but it really hasn't. A couple of years ago, Mel Reid, who's currently on tour, and she's doing well, she came out, but that's officially out there so people know. There aren't very many who are really out there and talking about it. So even though we know, for example, that in the LPGA, it's actually very diverse in terms of straight women, gay women, etc. But you don't know about that very much. We're mostly excited about all of the tour players who are becoming moms, right?
Oh, interesting.
Or they're getting married to men, and they're becoming moms. It'll be interesting if we have a tour player who is married to her wife and becomes a mom, if that's going to be publicized, or if people are going to rejoice as much for them as they would for any other woman who has a baby, right, on tour. Think about these things because they're very related to gender stereotyping.
Yeah, go to team sport. Brittany Grenier, who had headlines for all the wrong reasons, she's pretty open. She was out there about this and very clear. And her wife, it was they didn't shy away from that,
which I think was really quite awesome. Very awesome, and pretty unusual, actually. Yes. But I think that that's a step forward, and it's only happening now, right? 2022, 23. Right. It's taken till now, but that is a great thing. On that note, if we think about her, why did she go to Russia in the first place? And most of the women who've gone to Russia, in particularly, they pay. They can make $1 million playing basketball in Russia, where here the top WNBA players, and these are statistics as of, I believe, 221, maybe into 22, but we're making literally a fraction of what the male players make. And I'll give you a few numbers on that. As of a couple of years ago, the top WNBA players, women's basketball players, were making, they got salary raises up to $250,000 for the year. So $250,000. A rookie in the NBA, who hasn't even made a name for himself yet, starts at $7-8 million. Your kind of average, pretty good male players making 15, 20 million, something like that. The very top, like Steph Curry, who's fantastic, but he's I think he's in the $45 million or something a year range.
Oh,
But
yeah,
so
they're
these
talking
guys are
60s.
making 20, 40, 30, $40 million. Nobody, relatively speaking, are making at least 8, 10, $15 million. The tip top WNBA players are making like $250,000. So to put that in perspective, I call it, and I have an article on the pay chasm, gender pay chasm in golf. So we talk about a gender pay gap that women on average make 70, 75, maybe 80% of what men make for the comparable jobs. 80%. I mean, if you took that, Brittany Griner would be making, 10 mil, or I don't know how many, she'd be making millions. The top players, and they're making like in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Have to go to Russia to get $1 million
to do what they do, which is just play basketball.
Do what they do.
Right.
So I don't think these are things people think about or are very aware of. In golf, which is better, and the LPGA is one of the longest, if not the top, in longevity and prominence as a women's sports organization. Even so, we're finally getting some pay bumps, but the total purse up until 2 years ago, the total purse at an LPGA event was what the winner of a PGA event would make. And then the winner of an LPGA event would make 15%. Maybe it's up to 20 or 25% of what a PGA winner makes, tour winner makes. And again, and then compare that to 75 or 80% of what women make, which is already still not okay. And it's actually illegal. President Kennedy mandated equal pay 60 years ago, 70 years ago. We're still not there. And think about those percentages in sport. And we think that, wow, professional women tennis players or basketball players or golfers are doing so much better than, they can make hundreds of thousands and millions. But if you take it as a percentage of what the men are making, it's way, way less. It's a pay chasm, according to gender.
Yeah, amazing. I didn't usually would have taken a commercial break 5-6 minutes ago, but I just didn't feel right interrupting this conversation with that. But I do have to go away for a moment. We'll take a break. We'll be back right after this. You had said that you wrote an article about this, but I'd really like to dig in a little bit deeper about the article you wrote called Mixing Up Manly with Athletic.
Well, it's actually part of a series that I wrote about hetero/sexism in golf, and PGA Pride is an opportunity to talk about these things, so thank you. And I'll give you the links to this. It's a 4-series articles. So, I was a great little athlete when I was young. I just kind of came out very athletic, loved playing baseball, and I ended up not being able to play baseball because I was a girl, and they just wouldn't let me play. Even my parents, the adults, I just, threw the ball against my garage door and played catch with myself or, hit it against the garage door. That's pretty much where I ended up. I couldn't play, and girls couldn't play Little League yet. I was a great golfer, and that was kind of allowed, and my mom was a good golfer. So, that was cool. I got to play golf. But, I really wasn't allowed to play most things. And I was called a tomboy. So if you were athletic, you had to kind of be a boy, right?
Right.
Why is that? Why couldn't I just be an athletic girl, a talented athlete as a girl? That was kind of an anomaly. And guess what? It probably meant I was gay, In my case, it turned out, but it's not necessarily true at all. You can be athletic and be a girl, right? And you can also be athletic and be a gay boy, which people still have a hard time wrapping their heads around. Michael Sam was the first really out football player, 6-8 years ago, something like that. He lasted in the NFL only a year or two. He was bullied so badly, and nobody could wrap their heads around it. And that if you're a boy, maybe you're not interested in sports. I mean, that there's a spectrum of these things in our interests, and they're really not about being a boy or a girl and being blue and pink and all this stuff. They're just about who you are and what your likes and interests and talents are. That should be available to everybody, and it shouldn't have been that I had to be a tomboy who's maybe not really a girl because I'm athletic. Like, what's that all about? And so these are the things that I think we need to be questioning. And we're making progress. I will say that we're making progress, but even in the 2020s, it's not easy for a gay athlete to come out, put it that way.
No, and it's hard to paraphrase Dr. King, talking about not the color of the skin, but we can talk about the quality of character. I mean, should be the way we judge? It's just the quality of the character. Everything else is superfluous. If they can beat you at that sport, doesn't matter, does it?
Right.
If they can beat you, they can beat you. You're going to have to work a little bit harder.
Yeah. Well, we just really need to kind of uncouple these sort of basically sexist, heterosexist, genderized notions of who's athletic and who's not, or whatever it is that we're interested in, or who's artistic, or, I mean, anybody could be anything. Who's a leader, who's a politician, it doesn't matter. It should really be available to across, humanity, huwomanity. My niece in Israel, she knows some English, and she goes, "Why isn't human? Why aren't you a Hugh woman?"
Adorable. Yeah, I have two grandchildren, and a girl and a boy, and the girl has no interest in playing any ball type games. She doesn't seem to have any athletic tendency at all, which is fine. We don't care. I mean, if she want to dress as a princess and play with those, those kind of toys, great. No one's going to say that's wrong. And the little boy, who's just 2.5, just love having a ball in his hand. It's crazy. I mean, it's not like we've assigned anything to him. He just loves having a ball in his hand. He loves hitting a ball with a bat. And they have my son has a putting green in his front, and he likes to go out and roll the ball. He doesn't know how to hold the club yet, but he likes to being out there with the ball. Mm-hmm. So it's not like we're forcing it. That some people are forcing those things on kids. It's weird how it's just kind of innate.
You kind of never know. I had some friends.
You really don't.
I had some friends in Israel. They have a little boy he's like 5, and he's just like this little kamabiryon. He's just a little, he looks like a little wrestler. And I invited them to the Pride Parade, and they came, and he dressed up as a princess. I was like, I myself couldn't believe it. And they said,
awesome.
That's what he wanted to wear. So that was cool. And then I was with a friend of mine who's a top martial artist in Canada, and her daughter has a baby. So I was, we just kind of went shopping after a martial arts event that I taught. And I was guest instructor, and the baby had on one blue sock and one pink sock. A baby in a crib, And I said to her mom, I go, "Well, that's really interesting. That's pretty cool. I've never seen that." And she goes, "I know, my baby is bisexual."
Bisexual. Oh my God, that's
which
so
I
good.
Really love. Yeah. So she's
okay, we'll steal that one.
And we'll see where. And she goes, "I don't know where this. She's a baby. I don't know where she's going to go, but we'll see."
That is so good. I even wrote that down. We're going to use that one. Yeah. All right. Can we get to golf? Can we talk about golf instruction?
I would love to talk about golf.
Okay, good. And it's interesting, the Aikido part, we've talked about many times, and breathing and being centered. But Aikido's a sword practice, not a sport, obviously. Is it called a sport, or is it a practice?
It's a martial art. And
it's a martial art. Okay.
I'll tell you what I love about Aikido is that it is a martial art. So it's got self-defense and empowerment, and all martial arts, frankly, are helping us deal with stress. if you think about it, they're a stress practice, management practice, because we're under stress when you're getting attacked, right? Strikes, punches, etc. All that goes on. So it really teaches us to be more masterful in the face of a threat, things that cause our fight, flight responses, all of that. But Aikido is also very athletic. I mean, you start rolling around and doing it, you're sweating and huffing and puffing. So there's a lot of athleticism to it. And it's also a spiritual philosophy. And it's also, there's a very famous book by a teacher who's since gone, but I got to train with him. He was the first American who trained with the original founder of Aikido back in the late 50s, around 1960. But he wrote a book called It's a Lot Like Dancing. And the reason for that is that it works on the principle of harmony and flow. You don't go against and try to overpower. You are centered, you're working with energy, you go with the flow, and then you join with. And so Aikido to the eye, the untrained eye, it almost looks like ballet. It's so beautiful, this quality of blending and moving together. So for me, it's a beautiful combination of all of those things, and then very applicable to golf. It's not only a sword practice, but we use our arms kind of like swords in Aikido, the samurai sword. And I realized one day that I've been like holding a sword, a golf club, since I was 7 years old, getting my energy from my body through my arms into this club to hit the ball, get my energy out to the tip of the face of the club, the tip of the sword, the face of the club to make contact. And they're two interesting things because in Aikido, we throw people like a big body. How do I throw? I can throw 250-pound men, boom, like that. And in golf, we have to get our energy down to the smallest ball in sports and get all of that energy into a tiny little ball compared to a great big person. But frankly, it takes the same universal principles and qualities to be able to do those things well.
Oh, fascinating. All right, we're going to take another time out. We're going to come back and talk more golf right after this. Okay, let's talk about some golf stuff. And one of the things or a couple of the things that you've always impressed upon me and all the times you've been on the show is being centered and breathing. And we've had Jane Story on numerous times and just talking about connected golf, connected breath, connected putting, her latest. And it's all about the breath too, and her martial arts practice as well. So let's talk about both of those things, being centered and breathing, and how they impact your performance in golf.
Well, if the first question I ask golfers is, what makes your golf ball go? And they're like, never thought about that. And then, I hit it, and my mind, and the swing momentum, and my club head speed, and they say all these things. It's like, yeah, but the real thing that makes your golf ball go, and I'm giving you a very short course here. We can go into it much more. What makes your golf ball go is you, which is the good news and the bad news, right? And then the next question is, who are you? So we get pretty deep pretty fast, right? The age-old question, who are you? But my answer on a very practical level is that who I am, who you are, is life energy in a body. Life energy, ki, chi, kundalini, prana. We don't have words in English, but they do in the East. So it's this life energy. It's it comes into your body when you get born. When you die, it goes out of your body at the last breath. So that's where the breath comes in. Our breath kind of carries this animating life force. And it has 4 faculties. Again, I'm giving you a crash course. I go into this in my golf mastery schools and whatever, and my mastery trainings, leadership trainings. But our life energy is experienced and expressed through 4 universal faculties, human faculties. And they don't know gender or race or age or country or anything, religion. They're called your mind, your body, your emotions, and your spirit. And that's not new age stuff, okay? So that's where we get our mental game, our thoughts, our physical, our health, our well-being, our technique, our clubs, emotions. Is golf an emotional game? Like, duh.
Duh. Yeah.
Yeah. And then our spirit, which I take to be our motivation and our passion and our target and goal orientation, okay?
Yep.
So, and those things have to work together. Connection is what Aiki means. AI in Aikido, it's Japanese, Chinese. It actually means love, but love is taken as connection, joining, blending, oneness. Aiki is about connecting your energy, getting your mind, body, emotion, spirit all working together in harmony, and then delivering to whatever your target or goal is. And it's our breath that carries our life energy. And when we relax and we're not tense and we're unified, we're integrated, it turns out that we can use our energy in a much more effective way. So that's kind of the theory. And I'm going to tell you right now, share with everybody my theory of better golf.
Okay. I love it.
And so it's, I'll tell you briefly, here's the equation, and then I'll explain it. The equation is centered plus centered equals centered.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, that shouldn't be hard to remember.
Plus centered equals
centered.
Centered.
Okay, so so I brought my centered putter. I mean, this is all ball, as we say. Here's these new balls. They're
now for those of you who are listening on the podcast, the putter that she's holding up right now is a block. I mean, the putter face itself is no wider than a golf ball. Right?
It's exactly their specifications. And so it's exactly the width of a golf ball. Here's another very centered golf ball. All these new ones are showing us the center more than ever. Lines up with a little line. Most putters have a line. They'll have a little black area. They'll have something, the 2-ball putter. They're exactly the width of a putter. And so centered
Who makes
contact,
that putter? Who makes that putter? That's where'd you get that?
This is not made anymore. It's called the Stubby. You might find one on eBay. I got it 15, 20 years ago. But it's all ball, as we say. And you can see here that if you hit it off the heel or the toe, or this is turning or spinning, you're not going to get all your energy solidly into the golf ball so that it will launch online and with proper distance. All your energy will go in the golf ball. When your energy doesn't and you miss the center, it reverbs back, it hurts your hand, the ball spins offline, it doesn't have the enough momentum that you intended. So those are all the problems with not making centered contact. When we make centered contact, all our energy goes in the golf ball. Again, we get accuracy, distance, consistency, all those things are right. So centered contact is what we call hitting the sweet spot.
Right.
All right. And we all know about that. Those are the shots that look good, sound good, feel good. They keep us coming back. So this is one of the things that happens in golf. Probably every listener, you and I can identify. Most golfers make centered contact on a random basis.
Ouch.
Right? Sometimes, once in a while, 2 yes, 3 no, 4 yes, no, right? So it's kind of a random basis. And
we're not just talking about putter. When you're talking about centered contact, we're not just talking about a putter.
No. We're talking about, the face of a club. I got a club over here. But yeah, and that sweet spot, it's an engineered area between 2 vibrational nodes on a golf club. And when you hit that spot, it's like hitting a harmonic on a guitar. It's like crystalline, and it's like ping. Yeah. Great name for a golf company, yeah. And Carson Solheim, who was the founder of Ping Golf and the Solheim Cup, his family on the LPGA tour. But so he was not a good putter. He was an engineer, and he was playing around with putters. This is back in the 60s in his garage. And then all of a sudden, what he did was play around with a sweet spot. He expanded it, and then he came running in one day to tell his wife he had the answer. He went, "It's like a tuning fork. Ping, all the energy vibrates perfectly, boom, into the golf ball." And his answer putter, it was ANSER, there wasn't room for the W on the putter. It was his wife's idea. But that putter is iconic in golf, and it's the winningest putter in golf to date. But so what he did was to make it easier to make centered contact and keep the ball rolling on line. Okay. So let me go back to centered plus centered equals centered. In martial arts and in Ki golf, we learn to be centered in our own body. And we turn, we're centered. We make centered contact at impact. We finish up standing nice and balanced. So balance is about being centered, and you're balanced throughout your swing. Now, when you sway, when you lift, when you do all these things that golfers do, or your hands turn right off the bat, or they get in a funky position, They take the club face off center, make it harder to make centered contact. So you go off centered, you're going to have a harder time making centered contact or making it on a consistent basis. If every golfer could raise their percentage of centered shots from random to a consistent 30%, 40%, 50, 60, 70%, we may not get to 100%. We don't have to. Nobody's perfect. But we get those percentages higher and higher. That means we're going to be hitting the ball where we intend, down the fairway, onto the green, rolling on line to the hole, even into the hole more often. And that's about us learning to be centered, solid base, balance, and then making our weight transfers in a centered, balanced way instead of all this other stuff. So when you're centered, you move in a centered way, you're going to make more consistent centered contact. Centered plus centered equals centered. And golf, if you can ask any PGA or LPGA professional and teaching professional, good golf is about making centered contact on a consistent basis.
Whoa. I need to figure out how I'm going to phrase the next question, and I'm going to do it after this break. And let's hear what's going on in Golf Smarter Mulligans this week. This week is part 2 of our conversation with Jeff Ritter, and we're going to discuss what you, as a golf student, need to understand where you are now, where you're trying to go, and why you're trying to get there. Then decide if you're doing the right amount to reach your goals. Here's a taste on what you need to know about a golf club.
So every golf club has 3 basic design features. Number 1, the club leans on an angle to the inside of the target line. Well, guess what? That's the angle you should swing it on. Number 2, the club is built so that when it strikes the ball, it should lean towards the target. Well, when you do that, it creates maximum pressure on the golf ball. The golf ball squeezes down to a portion of its normal size, and when it expands, it shoots like a bullet off the face. What's the third thing? If you swing it on its angle, then the club face tends to rotate in accordance with that angle, or what we call swing plane. So you're telling me that the entire secret for how to hit a golf ball is presented in the way they design my golf club? Yes. So why is it that people grab these clubs and instead of swinging them on a tilt, they swing them straight up and down on a straight line? Why is it that instead of delivering a forward-leaning shaft, they deliver a backward-leaning shaft? And why is it instead of having the face rotate with the plane, it usually rotates somewhere else? Because they have no idea what they're trying to do.
That's episode 230, called Getting Into Your Coach's Mind, featuring Jeff Ritter. It's part 2. And was originally a members-only episode. So this is the first time it's ever been released publicly. So even if you've been listening to Golf Smarter for more than a decade, it's probably the first time you'll hear this. That's Golf Smarter Mulligans, being released this Friday morning, originally published in February of 2012 as a members-only episode. If you're a fan of Golf Smarter's content, then don't miss your chance to get 2 episodes every week. That's Golf Smarter, golf's longest-running podcast, and Golf Smarter Mulligans, episodes from our archives that revisit the best of Golf Smarter. They're both available for free from wherever you're listening right now. Okay, so when we're out there and things aren't going exactly right, we tend to tinker, and we tinker with our hands. We tinker with our turn. Is it as simple as we're just not making centered contact?
It is. And
Whoa.
all that tinkering and tweaking, I call it, it's the tweak method. Tweak this, tweak that. First of all, your mind is out at the periphery. It's at your hands. It's over here. It's doing this. It's out there doing something. Your mind needs to come back into your body, down your center column, into your lower belly, your Buddha belly, your lower belly. And by the way, this is where we have non-stress breathing. Okay, we calm our nervous system in our belly, and then that connects your belly. Your center's in your belly, in your hips, which is over your legs and feet. That's your base, your foundation for balance and centeredness. Okay, so when you bring your mind back into your body and into your belly and down into your feet, and I teach you, Jack Nicklaus said, golf's played between the arches of your feet. If you're thinking that it's all in between your ears, you're up here. And up is fear and stress and all of that. If you're thinking about what you're tweaking. You're out there. Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? And you're also in emotions that are kind of freaked out. Okay. They're not balanced and centered. And it just kind of tends to make it worse, the tweak method. So learning to just bring your mind and your back into your belly and your base, that's number one. And I teach what I call swing patterning, but how do you start your swing? Just get your swing going properly from instep of your right foot, downswing, instep of your right foot, your back foot, be left foot if you're a lefty, but that's how a quarterback throws, 50, 60 yards downfield. That's how a baseball hitter hits a home run, or a pitcher throws at 90, 100 miles an hour. You launch off that back foot, and most of us are up here, and we're thinking, it's just like that's not going to get you very far. And if it does, it will once in a while, but again, kind of randomly, and it doesn't really in any consistent way solve the issues that golfers have, which are to be more balanced, stay centered. Centered plus centered is going to equal centered. That's going to take you much further. And those are things that are so in our control. We are in control of our body and our mind and our breath. That's all you really have. And when you're out on the golf course, it's really all you have. You have your body, your mind, and your golf club. That's it. You can't look at your app. You can't call your coach. You can't put your swing jacket out. You can't do any of that stuff. So it's really a very natural thing. And this is where what I call my golf teaching is about a mastery school, self-mastery. And it's not really that hard to get centered and relaxed and connected and move in a proper sequence. Sequencing gives us natural tempo. Sequencing starts from our lower body and from being centered and keeping that centeredness. Then we have tempo comes out in a really natural way. So these are the real keys to better golf, not all this other stuff. And people have been chasing all that other stuff since I was a little girl, and I think before then, because my dad, every week he had the new solution, the new thing. This was it, that was it, that was it. It never did him any good. And speaking of my father, who I dearly loved, he was never a really good golfer. Once in a while broke 100. I came out with Kia Golf when he was 80 years old. And for 10 years, he just improved and improved and improved. He used to sell my DVDs and my whole series with his companion manuals. He kept them in his trunk. People would say, "How old are you?" He had this full swing. He was lefty, and he was like shooting in the 90s, and he was getting into the 80s, and he was in his 80s. Yeah, wow. I mean, and he never improved until I started. He became my most devoted student, and he would always say, "It's not because she's my daughter. It's because she's an LPGA pro, and she's a great teacher, and I'm finally improving." That's what he would say. And then he'd sell my stuff out of his trunk. Like, no kidding. He'd carry them around with him. That was in the days when you still had like a physical DVD and stuff. But for real, he improved, and he never improved. He was tweaking forever, all the time. And that's pretty much what golfers have been doing as long as I've ever been alive, and even from before I was. And I see it, and I see it through till today. And
did your dad ever shoot his age?
You know what? He didn't. He was 89, and he was out riding his bicycle, and he tried to talk on his cell phone. He fell and he broke his hip.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He did get back to chipping and putting in his 90s, but it was kind of tough after that. Although I helped him rehab, I must say, my fitness helped him rehab, and we did get him back out on the short game and all. But I played with him 2 days before he broke his hip, and he shot in the 90s, and he was 89, so he was getting close.
That's pretty good. Pretty close.
For a guy who didn't break 100 up until he was 80, that's pretty good.
That's amazing.
That
is amazing, and I'm hoping people are hearing that and going, yes, it is possible. It is possible to play the best golf of your life late in life.
Well, you can be more down the middle and more accurate and more consistent, and those are really the keys.
Yeah. Is there a lot of similarity between the sword work from Aikido to swinging a golf club?
There is, if you'll permit me for a minute, since you asked. 1 minute. I do have I have a 6-iron here, or 7-iron, whatever, doesn't matter. But if you can see, so here's a golf club, and I have a samurai sword here. Whoa.
A samurai sword. You just happen to have the samurai sword
just
there?
Happen, well, because I practice. It's called the Ido. But I hope that people can see. There is probably nothing more similar than an iron and a golf and a sword, okay?
Wow.
And the Scots called their swords irons, which is really interesting. And the way you hold a sword is like this, which is the exact way you hold a golf club, except that your hands are actually overlapping or interlocking. So we just have a little space, but that V is the same. And
the V between your thumb and your forefinger.
Yeah, well, we have to get our energy through the blade of the sword, which is like the shaft of the golf club, right, to the face of the club to make impact. Martial arts, this would be to the tip of the sword. But and what's interesting is that this is 90 degrees. It's completely like this. A golf club has some loft, so it's hard for us to sometimes to see when the face of the club is actually square. With this, you really can see. So on the backswing, this should be straight out, and we want to hinge our wrists to keep this, square. I saw a beautiful blimp picture of Michelle Wee years ago, right from on top. And at the top of her backswing, this was exactly parallel to the target line on the ground, okay? It wasn't all twisted and turned and funky. It's out here. And when we make impact right here, at the point of impact, you can really see that this needs to be square. If it isn't, we will slice, not making it up, or we will cut across the ball. We have the same words in golf, which is really interesting. So we need to see that this needs to get exactly square at impact. It'll keep traveling through, and then we have what we call, the belt buckle should be facing the target. And I call this a sword cut down the line. This is when your center is facing the target. I see a lot of people, they end up their swings, their neck is twisted or their shoulders aren't quite around or whatever. And, the ball goes over to the right, like no wonder. And when you finish, you turn your foot and you get here, your hips turn. This is, I say, a straight cut. So I kind of see every drive would be a sword cut down the center of the fairway. Every shot to the green is like a sword cut to the green, right? We're on target. And every putt is rolling straight to the hole. Sorry, I'm just a little bit limited on space here. I hope that's people can still understand that. But it's when we have that very sort of samurai-like sharpness, a sword sharpness in our mind, in our integration, the integration of our left and right sides, our lower and upper body, our mind and our body, and everything's working together. That's the integration, the connection, the ki, the I key. Then we have our energy going center where we want it to go, which would be ideally right down the center of the fairway and right on the green to the pin and into the hole. It's tough to do in golf. We got 360 degrees around, or we got a lot of, and at this 1 degree in one moment in time that's coming, so fast on, say, a drive, 80, 90, 100 miles per hour. But even when it's slow on a putt, like to control all of our muscles and all of our thoughts and all of our emotions, and to get this calm, centered, on balance, and to be right there at the moment of impact, and then to continue down the line. That's what we need to do in golf. And so, again, I come back to centered. And all this stuff about, even when putting, when we peek with our eyes, it's subtle, but that little peeking pulls us a little bit off. It'll pull your hands a little off. It'll just make that little difference, and all of a sudden your putter isn't making that square contact, much less when we're like moving or swaying or shifting or moving around. Yeah. So this is why it's so important to be centered and move in a centered, balanced way. For me, the biggest difference between professionals and amateurs is balance. You never see a tour player falling off or kicking back or, going, and you see a lot of amateurs falling off the ball, or, they'll like use their upper body so much they go wham, and then, whoa, they fall back, and they're going, I wonder what happened. Like, how'd that happen? It's like no mystery.
Yeah, I went through a lot of that. Luckily, I'm a little bit better at it than I used to be. So anyway, how do people get in touch with you if they want to learn more from you? And we'll also include links to those articles that you wrote. I'm really excited to be able to do that. But to find you online and have you speak to them or teach them, please share with us. Yeah.
They can find me at thecenteredway.com. Centered, E-D, thecenteredway.com. Jamie at thecenteredway.com. For an email, they go to my website. I think it pops up to sign up for my newsletter. Be in touch with me, send me a message. It's another good way. I actually like to talk to people. So I'm a talker, a speaker. 760-492-4653. That's 760-492-GOLF. Leave me a message, try reaching me. Find me on Facebook, Jamie Leno Zimron, or on LinkedIn, Jamie Leno Zimron. And I also teach virtual lessons. Through the pandemic, I got really good at Zoom. I've done golf mastery schools on Zoom. I have a golf mastery school coming up in Sacramento on October 8th, I believe.
Of 2023.
I get around and I'm happy to travel, have students who will travel. And I do a lot of speaking and teaching in different places. So possible to organize, some special events. Golf mastery schools are absolutely life-changing. They can be 1 day, 2, 3 days, whatever, but they include all of these principles, and I've designed golf fitness exercises, swing patterning exercises, some great on-course stuff, and to work with trouble shots, how to stay centered on trouble shots, all these things. So all that goes into golf mastery schools. And also, it's very possible on Zoom. I can see your swing. Give me 1 or 2 swings. I know exactly what's going on. I can work with you. And again, I have all kinds of exercises that I've designed. And I should say my book is coming out. It's in the final editing process. It will be
awesome.
out. It should have been out this year, but it's coming soon. It's called The Centered Way. And it incorporates all these principles, lots of practices, a lot of different stories that illustrate these principles. And there's a whole big chapter on golf, which is a case study. So applying everything in a detailed way to golf, as well as to leadership, health, peacemaking, all of that. Well, it's a lifetime book is coming out.
Yeah. When the book comes out, please let me know, and I'll let everyone know and put out the link to it. Even though we don't have, or you would have been awarded an Excellence in Golf Instruction Award from Golf Smarter, I think it's much greater that you've got the Excellence in Golf Award from the LPGA, the PGA SF Pride Golf Tournament. Congratulations, Jamie. Great to talk to you again.
Yeah, wonderful to talk. Thank you very much.
Well, first and foremost, I need to apologize to all of you for a glitch that prevented all of us, from listening to last week's episode. Hopefully by now you've realized that the problem has been fixed, and episode 913, featuring a conversation with former NorCal PGA Teacher of the Year Ben Alexander, is available to listen to. Thanks for your patience, and for all of you who wrote in, I truly appreciate your concern. And again, from earlier in our conversation with Jamie, I'll leave links to her articles that she told us about in today's show notes and the blog post. I was in Portland, Oregon last week, which is part of the reason why it took so long to correct the episode air. But while I was there, I got a chance to play at the Oregon Golf Club in West Lynn. It's a private course, beautiful course, yet very challenging, with incredible views of Mount Hood and the Willamette River. Thanks, Stephen Daniels, who invited me to join him for a great round. I do want to welcome this week's Golf Smarter Ambassador, Randy Erickson from Moraga, California. Now, Randy was actually my son's soccer coach back in the late 1980s. We haven't seen each other in decades, but I'm really hoping that we can get out and play together sometime and reconnect. Thanks so much for your support, Randy. Randy chose Tony Manzoni's video of the Lost Fundamental as his gift for participating. I invite you to join our global team of Golf Smarter ambassadors by calling our toll-free Golf Smarter listener line so that you too can be on the podcast and receive a free gift of your choice. Gifts include Tony Manzoni's video of the Lost Fundamental, or a box of Odin X1 balls with the Golf Smarter logo, or you can get a glove and glove storage compartment from redroostergolf.com. I'll leave a link in the show notes and today's blog post, so please write to me and I'll get back to you with some instructions of what to do and what to say. Also, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for upcoming episodes, DM me on social media or write to golfsmarterpodcast@gmail.com. And the other choice is click on the Hey Fred button when you visit golfsmarter.com.